Discover the incredible moment of a poor cleaner transformed everything after 12 hours of hard work. In Maplewood, a small Midwestern town, the silence of the early morning was broken only by the rhythmic sound of mop against floor, as David, a 38-year-old janitor, worked tirelessly to support his two beloved children, Emma and Jake. His heart ached from the loss of his wife to cancer, a loss that weighed on him like a heavy anchor. He often brushed away his grief when he kissed his children goodnight, promising them a brighter future. But as he stood in the echoing halls of the local high school, reality snaked its way in. The school was at risk of closing, a casualty of budget cuts. David felt an intense fury rise at the thought of vulnerable families losing their lifeline. This was personal. So he dug deep, channeling every ounce of strength into a neglected donation center, an underused space meant to support struggling families. Each stroke of his scrub brush cleared away years of dust, transforming neglect into hope. As he worked, hands raw and back aching, whispers of admiration began to follow him. Parents and students passing by stopped to take notice. "Look at what he's doing," they murmured, their pride sparking a flicker of community spirit. But not everyone felt the same way. Principal Thompson, a man who had long believed in a polished perception of the school over everyday realities, confronted David with a scowl. "Why waste your time on this busy work? You're better than this," he remarked coldly, an edge in his voice that cut deeper than David expected. Those words stung, making him feel small, invisible. But David held his ground. He believed in what he was doing, his heart racing with the weight of dignity and defiance. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. A week later, excitement pulsed through the air as the school prepared for its reopening ceremony. Parents gathered apprehensively, some clutching their children tightly, while others wore clear expressions of disbelief. David stood at the back, his heart hammering. Would anyone acknowledge his efforts? Would he remain just a shadow lurking in the hallways? As the principal began to speak, the crowd quieted, an electric tension filling the gym, the air thick with anticipation. Would Thompson deliver a message that celebrated those who teetered on the edges, the unseen heroes like David? But then, just as Principal Thompson was about to share David's story of resilience and hard work, an unexpected interruption sent a ripple of shock through the audience. Gasps filled the air, leaving David rooted in place, eyes wide, heart pounding. In that moment, everything felt uncertain, everything felt at stake, and the fate of many, and perhaps David's hard-won recognition, hung in the balance. A young girl burst through the gym doors, breathless and wide-eyed. She tugged on the sleeve of her father's shirt, pulling him toward the front, clearly distressed. "Dad, you need to see this!" she exclaimed, her voice cutting through the charged silence like a knife. David squinted, straining to see what was causing this commotion. Whispers cascaded through the crowd as everyone turned their heads toward the girl. David's heart raced, not just from the exciting break in the ceremony, but from the gnawing feeling in his gut. What could be so important? Principal Thompson's composed demeanor faltered. The breeze of confusion rushed through the gym as the girl approached the podium, tugging on the principal's arm. "I found something. It's in the donation center." David's breath hitched. The donation center? He had poured his heart and soul into that space. What could it possibly mean? The gym filled with murmurs. The anticipation crackled violently through the air. Was this an unexpected opportunity or a potentially catastrophic reveal? Was it a treasure, or could it be indicative of failure? "Please, let's not disrupt this," Thompson tried to maintain control, but the girl's urgency was infectious. The crowd began to stir, and faces went from skepticism to curiosity, eyes darting from the podium to the young girl. It was as if a wave of energy surged through everyone, challenging the fatigue of routine and waiting. After a moment of hesitation, Principal Thompson relented, nodding at the girl with reluctant curiosity. "All right, let's see what's going on." He stepped aside, his authority temporarily eclipsed by the urgency of the moment. With a shuffle of nervous energy, the girl bounded toward the back of the gym, her father reluctantly following, pushing past a handful of teachers and other parents. David shifted his weight, the knot in his stomach tightening. Would he soon find himself at the center of attention, or worse, under scrutiny? As they reached the donation center doorway, David caught a glimpse of movement near the windows. Shadows flitted in and out, and the sound of crinkling paper wafted in the air. His heart raced even faster. Was it more discarded items? Could the donation center hold something precious that had been buried for years? In the midst of all this commotion, David heard snippets of other conversations blending into noise. What did she find? Can you believe it? This could save the school. Hope and speculation danced together, each thought strangely tethered to David's heart.
He took a few steps closer, unsure if he should follow. But then he noticed two teachers shifting forward, peering into the room. Courage building, David followed them, curiosity propelling him forward, as if he were being drawn by an invisible string. As he entered the center, the chaos of the gym seemed worlds away. The realization of what was inside hit like a ton of bricks. Boxes filled to the brim with supplies, crayons, notebooks, and technology. Items long thought missing, stashed away in forgotten corners, waiting to be unveiled like old family treasures. "David, look at this!" the girl beckoned, her excitement infectious. But just as David stepped closer, the excited whispers behind him grew louder, and a sudden hush fell over the gym. In that moment, as glances of admiration turned toward him, he felt a flicker of recognition, but felt it slipping from his grasp as doubt gnawed at him. What if it wasn't enough? Would this unforeseen discovery be the savior of the school, or a fleeting moment soon buried in the rush of daily life? The stage was set, the eyes of his community now upon him. David knew he'd have to make a choice that could change everything. What will David do next? Will he take the spotlight or retreat into the shadows once again? The answer lay just ahead. David blinked, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Boxes stacked high, brimming with hope, glimmered under the fluorescent lights. It was almost surreal. Yet within that surrealness was an unmistakable urge pushing him onward. The girl, still buzzing with enthusiasm, turned her eyes upward, meeting David's, hers shining bright. "Are you going to say something?" she asked, her eagerness spilling over. All eyes were on him now. There was no turning back. He hesitated, searching for the right words, fearing he might betray the gravity of the situation. Every heartbeat echoed in his ears, drowning out the whispers of the crowd. It was a mix of excitement and nerves. He was standing on a precipice, and behind him, an entire community clung to his next move. Everyone? He began, the words barely forming. He took a deep breath, willing himself to be brave. "This is incredible. Look at what we found." Pointing toward the boxes, his voice grew steadier. "These supplies, they could change things for our school. This could give kids what they need to learn and thrive. Imagine what we could do with this." A ripple of recognition washed over the crowd. Hope ignited, faces brightened, comments bounced back and forth. "Can we take it to the classrooms?" a teacher called out, her eyes filled with disbelief and joy. "Who knows what else might be in here?" said another. Excitement flipped through her tone like a breeze. As questions fluttered around him, David felt the power of unity swell in the air. Maybe, just maybe, this wasn't just his moment, but a moment for everyone. He could feel the community aligning behind him. It was a collective gasp of hope, a deep breath before the plunge into change. Suddenly, Principal Thompson stepped closer, a new energy radiating from him. "We need to organize this. We can call a community meeting. Let's get everyone involved." That simple suggestion solidified it. It wasn't just about him or the girl anymore. It was about all of them. He'd spent years worrying about whether he was doing enough, but now here it was before him, the chance he never expected. David's heart swelled with purpose. Yes, a meeting to discuss how we can use these supplies to benefit all the kids. We can brainstorm together. Cheers erupted from the crowd, growing louder, feeding off each other's enthusiasm. The room felt imbued with possibility, with energy that surged through his very bones. But just as optimism bloomed in that shared space, a critical thought clawed at the back of David's mind. What if this excitement turned out to be short-lived? What if the challenges ahead were too great to overcome? The girl watched him closely, waiting for him to lead. But her gaze felt like a weight, urging him to harness this moment into something greater. Then a blonde-haired boy timidly raised his hand at the back of the gym, his expression serious. "What if we can't use everything? What happens to it?" David's stomach tightened again. The truth was, not every supply would be useful. The donations could hold secrets and difficulties he wasn't ready to face. But deep within that uncertainty lay a spark of resolve. David could feel the shift, the growing sense of belief. He had to embrace the challenge, not back down. "Then we find a way, together," "We can sort through everything. We can make it work," he declared. His voice carried the conviction of a dream yet to be realized. The room resonated with applause and affirmations. But within the swell of support, David heard a whisper of apprehension, a quiet reminder that the path ahead wouldn't be easy. As the crowd buzzed with plans and excitement, David stood in the midst of it all, ready to lead, yet anxious about the decisions lying ahead. Was he really prepared to face the hurdles, the possible failures? Hope beckoned, but fear lingered, and David had to choose what he believed in. With the weight of expectation heavy on his shoulders, the question loomed larger than ever. Could he transform not only his school, but himself in the process? Only time would tell. David felt his heart race as the applause and chatter filled the gym. The energy was infectious. It surged around him like a tangible force. But underneath that surge, a feeling of doubt whispered away at the edges of his excitement. This community, so eager and ready to rally behind him, was only a heartbeat away from disappointment if he couldn't deliver. He took a moment to survey the faces around him. There were bright eyes filled with hope, but there was also apprehension, a few uncertain glances, some furrowed brows. It hit him then how much this moment transcended supplies. They weren't just boxes of paper and pencils. They were symbols of opportunity, a lifeline in a system that often overlooked them. The failure or success of this project wasn't just on him. It was on all of them. "Okay, let's get started." David's voice rang out again, silencing the remaining whispers. "Let's break down into smaller groups. We can sort these supplies and figure out who needs what." He gestured toward a table at the far side, cluttered with the boxes. "Some people can focus on the classrooms, others on organizing a plan for distribution. There's more than enough here to make a difference." The room seemed to expand with the sound of movement as people rushed to form groups. David watched, a smile creeping across his face. It felt good to have purpose, to be part of something larger. But then that whisper of doubt returned. What if they couldn't get through everything? What if they sorted and found that half of it was unusable? "David!" The voice broke through his thoughts. It was the girl who had been so animated earlier, her eyes wide with enthusiasm. "What if I helped with social media? We can spread the word about what we're doing. More people might want to pitch in." "Great idea," he replied, excited at her initiative. "We'll need to show everyone how important this is. The more support we have, the better our chances." As the groups formed, David settled into one focused on sorting supplies. Hands moved methodically, opening boxes, pulling out notebooks, markers, and various educational tools, laughter bubbling as they shared finds. He joined in, matching their energy, feeling the palpable sense of purpose. But as the chaos of unpacking continued, an old worry flickered in the back of his mind, a memory of past failures, times when he'd put in the effort, but nothing had changed. "Hold on, everyone," David called as he spotted a box that seemed to have been overlooked. "Let's take a look at this one." The sides were battered, but a glimmer of hope shone through. He opened it carefully, revealing a collection of beautifully illustrated children's books, their pages still fresh. The room erupted with cheers. "See, this is just what we need. Imagine the kids reading these." The excitement was undeniable now, and David felt a warmth creeping into his chest. This was his chance to prove that they could make a difference. Moments passed, and the rhythm of productivity surged. But then came a sinking feeling when he realized they were deep into their sorting and still hadn't seen the end of the boxes. Anxiety coiled in his stomach. How long would they be here? How many supplies would they truly manage to salvage? "Hey, David," a voice pulled him from his spiraling thoughts. It was a fellow classmate. "What if we don't find enough? What if we just run out of time?" David met his gaze, feeling the weight of the question.
His heart twisted, but in that moment, he grasped a deeper truth. This was not merely about the supplies, but about showing not just themselves, but the world that they could change things, little by little. "Then we keep trying," David replied with certainty, the conviction in his voice igniting nods around him. "It's not just about the outcome, it's about showing up for each other." The weight of expectation hung there still, looming, yet now it felt lighter. Together, they were stepping into the unknown. As laughter punctuated the work, David caught the girl's eye from across the room. She smiled at him, her enthusiasm contagious. But before he could return her smile, a sudden crash echoed as one of the boxes toppled over, spilling supplies everywhere, filling the air with unsettling chaos. David's heart plunged. Would this unravel their progress? The room fell silent, all eyes now on the disaster. And in that moment of tension, he faced not just the sum of their fears, but the raw possibility of their result. What would this moment mean for their journey ahead? Would they rise above, or would this chaos spell their defeat? David stood frozen as the chaos unfolded before him. The scattered supplies crumbled any sense of order they had built, and for a moment it felt like the weight of disappointment hung heavily in the air. An uneasy murmur rippled through the room, eyes darting from the mess to him. "Everyone, don't panic," David shouted, raising his hands as if to physically contain the chaos. "Let's take a breath. We can fix this." The words rallied some, but others seemed to shrink at the sight of the fallen boxes. He could feel the energy shift, the weight of doubt creeping in once more. What if this was it? Maybe they really were trying to do something too big. As they moved to clean up, David stepped forward, guiding each group back to their tasks. They picked up books, markers, and scattered papers, laughter still trying to bubble through the tension. He realized the fallen box was a test, not just for him, but for all of them. In moments of turmoil, what mattered was how they responded. "Look at these," called out a volunteer, holding up a storybook that had landed open. The colorful illustrations captured the attention of those around. "These are so cool." David stopped to admire the book, feeling a flicker of hope in his chest. "See? Even in a mess, we can find treasure. Let's regroup and see what we've got." Once they had cleared the chaos, David tried to re-inspire them. "Let's count what we've salvaged and figure out how to distribute it. This setback doesn't define us." He could feel their energy shift, his excitement mingling with a sense of urgency. As the volunteers began counting the supplies again, David noticed the girl from earlier typing away on her phone, her face bright with determination. "I just posted about the event. We're getting some great responses. People want to help. See?"
David felt buoyed by her enthusiasm. "That's what I'm talking about. We can spread the word and make this bigger." With renewed energy coursing through him, he split the group into teams again. They started designing flyers, crafting social media posts, and discussing how they could reach out to local businesses for support. The atmosphere in the room transformed, hopeful chatter replacing the earlier tension. Hours passed, filled with laughter and collaboration. They divided supplies into boxes labeled for specific needs, classrooms, families in need, and even a few for a local shelter. David breathed in the satisfaction of progress. But as he glanced at the clock, an uncomfortable knot tightened in his stomach. Would they have enough time to finish? The deadline loomed closer. He rallied everyone together again. "Let's give it everything we have in this last stretch. We're almost there." Their momentum surged, hands moving faster as they filled the final boxes. Just then, a loud ding echoed from the gym speaker system. An announcement blared, "The gym will close in 30 minutes." David's heart sank. They needed more time. He could see some of the volunteers' faces fall, the same worry creeping back in. But then he remembered the moment where they had all decided to show up for one another. "Okay, let's finish strong," he said, raising his voice above the nervous chatter. "We've come too far to stop now. We can do this together." The energy in the room shifted again. People rallied around him. They raced against the clock, and as they checked items off the list, David felt a swell of pride. But as they approached the last few boxes, he wondered, what if they didn't get it all done? What if their chance to make a difference slipped through their fingers at the very end? The thought clutched at him. Just then, a shadow fell over him, and he turned to find the girl standing beside him once more, her eyes sparkling with resolve. "David," she said, breathless, "I think I have an idea that could change everything. What if we stayed a little longer? There's a way to extend the deadline." His heart raced as he listened, caught between hope and fear. What if that idea could unlock everything they'd worked for? David felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension wash over him. The girl, he still didn't know her name, was radiating this contagious energy, and he could feel it press against his chest, urging him to act. "What's the idea?" he asked, leaning closer. The murmurs around them softened as more volunteers began to tune in, curiosity glinting in their eyes. "There's a way to ask for a little more time before the gym closes." She took a deep breath as if preparing to launch into a pep talk. "I overheard the event coordinator talking about how they're trying to encourage community involvement. If we explain our mission and show them how close we are to making a difference, they might just let us finish up." David's mind raced, calculating the possibilities. "Are you serious? Do you think they'll actually do it?" "Why not?" she replied, her confidence unwavering. "Let's go for it. What do we have to lose?" He glanced around, meeting the hopeful gazes of the team. Their tired expressions flickered with a spark of possibility. "Okay," he agreed, his voice rising with conviction. "Let's give it a shot." In a flurry of movement, the girl took charge, leading David and a couple of volunteers toward the gym's front desk. The gym was bustling with activity as others milled about, unaware of the urgent mission taking place. "Stay positive," David whispered to the volunteers beside him as they approached the counter. The receptionist looked up, her expression shifting to one of surprise as she noticed the enthusiastic group before her. Can I help you? Hi, we're with the community project. The girl stepped forward, her voice steady but kind. We've made huge progress today, but we're hoping you might be able to extend our time just a bit. We're really close to finishing and making a real difference in our community. David could feel his heart beating louder, every second stretching like an eternity. The receptionist's eyebrows raised, clearly intrigued. How much longer do you need? 15 minutes would be perfect, the girl replied. David swallowed hard. He could see doubt creeping into the receptionist's eyes, a flicker of consideration. I can check with my manager, she finally said, standing up. With hope threading through the air, David turned back to see the rest of the group, their faces a tapestry of anticipation and nervousness. He could feel a shared energy building, hands fidgeting, feet tapping. Moments later, the receptionist returned, her eyes bright with an unexpected smile. All right, you've got your 15 minutes, but we'll be locking the doors after that, so make it count. The room erupted in cheers. David's heart danced. They weren't done yet. Let's get back to it, he shouted, leading them back toward the supplies. As the team dove into the last stretch, laughter filled the space again. But as they worked swiftly to complete the final boxes, David couldn't help but glance at the girl who had sparked this chance. What's your name? He asked, amidst the flurry of movement. Leela, she responded, focusing intently on sorting supplies. Thank you, Leela. You really made a difference today, he said, and a warmth spread through him when she grinned back. Yet, with every box they filled, David could sense the clock ticking down. He kept eyeing the time, anticipation and urgency straining his chest. They had no room for mistakes now, no more chaos, only focus. As they packed up the last box with just moments to spare, he felt a nagging pressure weighing him down. Were they really making the change they had set out to create? Or was it just a temporary thrill? Leela noticed his unease, pausing beside him.
David, do you think we actually made a difference today? She asked softly, her eyes searching his. Just as he was about to answer, the gym doors began to close, and a loud clang echoed in the room. The finality of it sent a shiver through him. David's throat felt tight. What if everything hinged on this moment? Would they walk away having truly accomplished what they set out to do, or were they caught in the whirlwind of panic and chaos once more? As he looked around at the boxes filled with supplies and the hopeful faces of his team, the question weighed heavier on him than ever. Could their hard work spark lasting change, or were they destined to fade away in a world that moved on too quickly? Suddenly, a voice cut through his thoughts, a stranger at the door, peeking in with curiosity about the commotion. What's going on here? David turned, caught off guard. A new chance was unfolding right before him. David straightened, feeling the warmth of hope mix with uncertainty. The stranger at the door was a tall figure, eyes wide with genuine curiosity. The gym lights cast an almost halo-like glow around them, but David's own thoughts felt cloudy with worry. We're finishing up a community project, he stammered, suddenly feeling shy under the stranger's gaze. We're packing supplies for families in need. The stranger's expression shifted from curiosity to admiration. That's amazing. I didn't know you all were doing this here. Leela stepped in, her voice bright and welcoming. We're really close to getting everything done. We were just about to pack the last few boxes before the gym closes. The stranger's eyebrows arched, and an impressed smile grew on their face. I can help. What do you need? David could feel the energy in the room shift again, sparking another wave of excitement. Really? That would be incredible, he exclaimed, grateful for the unexpected support. As the stranger strode in, confident and eager, Leela immediately gestured toward a stack of unpackaged items. We still have these non-perishables to sort. If you can grab those bags and keep the assembly line going, that would be awesome. He started moving quickly, his hands deftly organizing the supplies. David felt a rush of renewed energy. It was as if this stranger's presence alone had reignited their collective drive. By the way, I'm Alex, the stranger called out while continuing to work. I usually clean this gym, but I heard some noise and thought I'd see what the fuss was all about. So glad I did. Thank you, Alex. David felt the release of tension as he turned back to Leela. Look at how much we're getting done. Just as they began to reel in the final items, the clock ticked closer to the gym's closing time. They could see the lights dimming slightly as the minutes faded away. David's adrenaline surged. Was it possible they could finish before the final bell rang? Hey, how about a chant? Leela proposed, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Let's rally together, one last push to show everyone just what we can do. Everyone chimed in, voices rising. One team, one dream. Laughter erupted, mixing with the rhythm of their coordinated efforts. David felt a sense of camaraderie he hadn't felt before, a collective effort that transcended time and exhaustion. As Leela handed out boxes for packing, they all began throwing supplies towards one another in a lively, almost playful atmosphere. Just as David reached to catch a box, his heart skipped a beat when he noticed several kids peeking inside the gym through a side window. Their faces lit up with wonder, clearly intrigued. "Look," David said, pointing them out to the group. Suddenly, their laughter and energy shifted toward the children, faces glowing with excitement. "Wow, they're watching us!" "Do we look cool?" Alex joked, raising a box triumphantly as if winning a competition. David smiled, feeling a swell of pride. It wasn't just about finishing. It was about inspiring those eyes that had lit up, those kids who might need a spark of hope too. But just as he reveled in the momentum, the last few seconds felt fragile, like a glass ornament ready to fall. Would their hurried efforts truly make a ripple in the community? As if sensing David's doubt, Leela turned, locking eyes with him. "Whatever happens next, we've shown what we can do when we work together." In that resonant moment, a loud clang echoed through the gym, the final door slamming shut. David felt something inside shift, charged with newfound determination. "Let's finish strong," he shouted, heart racing as he watched his team rally around him, ready for the last big push. But just as they were about to finish packing the last box, Alex's phone buzzed loudly in his pocket. Everyone froze, the moment hanging delicately in the air. What if, David thought uneasily, what if that message changes everything? The tension was palpable as they stared at Alex, who pulled the phone from his pocket, eyes wide with shock. Alex's face paled as he looked down at his phone, the screen illuminated with a message that seemed to pulse with urgency. David's heart raced alongside the suspense hanging in the room. It felt almost surreal, like they were caught in the middle of a movie where the protagonist was faced with a pivotal choice, a choice that could so easily shift the course of their evening, or perhaps beyond it. "Guys," Alex started, his voice trembling slightly. "I just got a text from the head of the community center. They want to know if we can deliver the supplies directly to this family in need tonight. They're in a rough spot and time is critical." David's breath hitched. The excitement of packing had been pure joy, a moment crafted from teamwork and laughter. But now, reality crashed back in, heavy and pressing. They were running against the clock. The gym was supposed to close, and here they were, being offered the chance to make a real difference.
The stakes felt impossibly high. "What should we do?" Leela asked, her voice a mix of excitement and worry. "Can we make it happen?" David glanced at the boxes filling up the gym, each one brimming with potential. A deep sense of purpose surged through him. "We have to try," he replied, his heart pounding with determination. "If they need us, we can't say no." With a renewed sense of urgency, they quickly reorganized the boxes, loading them up with critical supplies. Alex hustled to get the gym's cart for transporting items, and Leela calmed the growing frenzy, directing everyone with an infectious enthusiasm. "Grab whatever you think they might need, quickly!" David felt every second slipping away as his hands moved instinctively. This was bigger than just an event. It was about real people, facing real struggles, just outside those gym doors. The thought of those families receiving hope through their efforts fueled his adrenaline. As they loaded the last box in the cart, a sense of unity enveloped them. "We're doing something important tonight," David said, looking around at Leela, Alex, and the others. "Let's make sure they feel that hope. Let's make it count." "Ready?" Alex asked as he tightened the straps on the cart. "Let's go!" they all shouted in chorus, bursting out of the gym onto the dimly lit streets. The cool night air hit them, refreshing, yet electric with anticipation. The journey to the family's home was filled with a mix of nervousness and excitement. Leela led the way, guiding Alex, who pushed the cart, while David walked beside him, casting glances at the stars beginning to twinkle in the early night sky. What if they're not home? He wondered aloud, a pang of doubt creeping up again. "They'll be home," Leela assured him. "When you need help, you're always home." But as they rounded the final corner, a different kind of feeling gripped them. The house was run down, with faded paint and a front yard full of long grass. There was a flickering light in one window, casting shadows across the porch. "Is this it?" Alex murmured, looking hesitant as he jerked the dart to a stop. David's heart sank and soared all at once. "This is it," he confirmed softly, stepping forward, a mix of uncertainty and valor pushing him ahead. As David reached for the doorbell, he paused, understanding that everything hinged on this moment, their collective efforts, hope, and the message they were bringing. Would their contributions resonate? Would it change anything for this family? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a woman with tired eyes who looked at them with a mix of confusion and curiosity. "Can we help you?" David asked, the question hanging in the air, heavy with the promise of change. But just as the woman opened her mouth to respond, a loud crash came from behind them. Panic surged through David's body as he spun around. What had just happened? David's heart raced as he turned to face the noise.
The sound had come from the alley beside the house, sharp and harsh, a clattering of metal, followed by a low murmur of voices. His stomach twisted with anxiety. Was someone in trouble, or were they simply caught in the wrong place at the wrong time? "What was that?" Lila whispered, her eyes darting toward the darkness that loomed just beyond the flickering streetlight. "Stay together," Alex urged, his grip tightening on the cart. The supplies, everything they had rushed to assemble, felt even more precious now. If this was trouble, they weren't just delivering boxes, they were stepping into something far beyond a simple good deed. David moved closer to the door, seeking to shield the woman from potential danger. "It might just be something minor," he suggested, but his voice trembled. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Their mission was pure, but the world rarely played by such straightforward rules. Before anyone could ask what they should do next, a figure emerged from the shadows, tall and disheveled, stumbling slightly as he stepped into the light. "Hey," he called, his voice rough but not threatening. "You guys all right?" David felt both relief and confusion wash over him. "We're fine," he managed, trying to read the man's expression. "Do you live around here?" "No, just passing through," the man said. His eyes flitted to the cart, curiosity dawning. "What's in there?" "Supplies for a family in need," Lila answered, her determination breaking through the tension. "Do you know them?" The man cocked his head slightly, his features softening. "Yeah, the Morales family. They could use that stuff." He paused, shifting awkwardly. "Things have been rough, really rough." Just as David was about to respond, they were interrupted again. A loud shout erupted from the back of the alley, startling everyone. "Come on, man, let's go." Another figure, this one more menacing, advanced fast, his face obscured by the shadows, but there was anger in his voice. "Go," the first man urged, turning back to David and the others now with fear etched in his eyes. "You all need to get inside if you can. Trust me." David exchanged glances with Lila and Alex. Uncertainty painted their faces. Should they flee inside the house or stand their ground? The last thing they wanted was to abandon the supplies they had fought so hard to collect. But the urgency in the man's voice was palpable. "I don't want trouble for you. Just be safe." "Wait," David called, suddenly feeling bold. "If you know them, you can help us reach the Morales family. We're not just going to leave." The first man hesitated, weighing their determination against the escalating tension in the alley. "You don't know what you're getting into, man." "Then help us get to them," Lila interrupted, her voice steady and strong. "They need what we have. We can't turn back now." Just then, a commotion erupted again behind them, crashing into the quiet night like thunder. David felt his pulse quicken. This was going way beyond a simple delivery, and the stakes had just soared. "Okay, then follow me," the man relented, pulling back into the shadows as he glanced nervously at the chaos gathering. "But keep quiet. We have to stick close together." The group exchanged uneasy looks, their shared resolve igniting anew. What had started as an act of kindness had morphed into something far more complicated. But as they stepped into the darkness, a question loomed large. What lay ahead for them in this tangled web of uncertainty and urgency? The dim light of the street flickered as David, Lila, and Alex followed the man deeper into the shadows. Fear twisted in David's stomach, but there was no turning back now. They had come too far to let fear stop them. "Stay close," the man whispered, glancing over his shoulder. He led them through a narrow passage, lined with crumbling brick walls and littered with forgotten debris. David felt the cart bump against his ankle with every hurried step. The supplies felt heavy with purpose, each box a testament to their hard work and determination. Yet now, those boxes were far more than a collection of supplies. They were a lifeline for a struggling family. What would the Morales family think when they saw them? "Are we close?" Lila asked, glancing nervously at David. "Just a little further," the man replied, his eyes darting around. "Stick to the plan." David could hardly believe how quickly the night had escalated. It was supposed to be a simple delivery, a culmination of unity and hope. Now,
They were caught in a web of urgency. Suddenly, a shout echoed down the alley, sending chills racing down David's spine. "There they go." "Keep moving," the man urged, pushing them forward. The adrenaline coursed through David, spurring them on. They turned a corner and emerged onto a quieter street. "There it is," the man pointed ahead. "A small house with peeling paint and flickering lights. That's the Morales' home." Hope surged within David as he stepped into the glow of the porch light. There it was, the chance for these supplies to change lives. He stepped forward, knocking loudly on the door. "Who's there?" a cautious voice replied from inside. "It's David. We're here to help," David called back, desperation hanging in his voice. "We brought supplies." The door creaked open, revealing a weary woman with tear-stained cheeks. Her eyes widened with hope and disbelief. "Supplies? For us? Please, let us in," Leela urged, as David and Alex quickly maneuvered the cart inside, revealing packed boxes of essentials. "Wow," the woman breathed. "I can't believe this. You have no idea what this means for us." Just then, a small child peeked from behind her, eyes wide and curious. The scene tugged at David's heart. He remembered his own children, the moments he'd almost lost hope, but here stood a family desperately grasping onto the promise of tomorrow.
"Let's get everything unloaded," Alex suggested, his voice steady. "We can distribute it quickly." The room buzzed with a frantic energy as they unloaded items, notebooks, crayons, food, and hygiene products. Every item felt like a small victory, a bright flare in the darkness that had surrounded them. Thank you so much," the mother replied, tears welling in her eyes. "This is more than we could have ever asked for." But then the sound of crashing and raised voices echoed from outside. The first man's eyes darkened. "We need to hurry." "Just a few more minutes," David pleaded. "We can help them." "No, we need to go now," the man insisted, urgency flooding his voice. Panic gripped David's chest. Who knew what chaos awaited them outside? But the gratitude in the mother's eyes anchored him. They had fought hard for this moment, and he wasn't about to let it slip away. Taking a deep breath, he glanced at Leela, who met his gaze with fierce determination. "We can do this. Just a few more boxes." Gathering strength from that connection, David turned back towards the supplies, resolute. "Let's make sure they have what they need. We can't leave anything behind." In the flurry of motion, they hurried to finish, sliding boxes into the mother's embrace. For every item they handed over, a hesitant but blooming joy sparkled in her eyes. The atmosphere pulsed with urgency. This wasn't just about giving supplies. It was about sharing hope, and they could feel it igniting. The child smiled, reaching for a shiny crayon, and in that moment, something powerful surged through them all. Just then, the door slammed open, and the tall figure from the alley rushed in, breathless and wide-eyed. "We need to go now!" The mother's face contorted with fear, searching desperately for answers. "What's happening?" "They'll be looking for us. We can't be here when they come." David's heart raced. They couldn't abandon this family, not when they had just begun to forge a connection. But fear surged again. The chaos of their mission was now mingling dangerously with the threats of the world outside. Every choice pressed down like a weight. "Please," he turned to the mother, his voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "We'll help you lock up, but you need to be ready to leave just in case. We can't risk being caught." As the mother nodded, David felt urgency surge through him. They all began to gather their things, while Leela shot him a look, her resolve unwavering. "Together we'll get through this," she whispered, heart racing, pushing back the fear that threatened to sway her. The last of the supplies found their way into the mother's arms. Thank you so much," she repeated, her eyes filled with tears of gratitude. "Keep that hope alive," David said softly, feeling the weight of connection forge even stronger. "Whatever happens, don't give up. You have what it takes." Just then, they heard shouted voices drawing nearer. "Let's move," the man urged, and without thinking, David took Lila's hand, leading her and Alex toward the back door. They slipped outside in silence, their hearts thudding. The air was thick with tension, but as David glanced back at the Morales family, he understood something vital. Sometimes magic happens in the midst of chaos, when hope and courage refuse to back down. As they rushed through the shadows, David felt lighter. He would keep fighting for that hope, not just for his own children, but for everyone who dared to believe that change was possible. They stepped away from the house, hearts pounding. Every second mattered. They had stepped into the unknown, but together they could find their way through. That haunting moment would shape their lives forever, an urgent reminder of the difference that can change everything. And as they reached safety, David turned to his friends, determination alight in his eyes. "Together, we can create real change.
This is just the beginning. And so they walked into the night, no longer shadows in a forgotten town, but beacons of hope ready to reshape their world. Now, more than ever, David understood that it was the connections they forged, the love they shared, and the courage to rise together that could truly transform lives. The experience resonated deeply, leaving an imprint that would last a lifetime as they carried that spark forward, ready to light up every dark corner they encountered. But even as they walked away, the journey was far from over. David and his friends had ignited a fire of hope that would blaze through their community, changing not just one life, but many, together, always, pushing forward into the promise of tomorrow. And with that promise burned brightly in their hearts, they stepped boldly into the wider world, determined to make it a better place, one act of kindness at a time. If you want to continue witnessing these transformative stories, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out, it's crucial to our journey together. Hit that like button now to fuel this adventure. Every like counts, and we can't do this without your support. Please comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. It means so much to hear from you. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need a dose of inspiration. Together, we're changing lives. Let's spread the word.